played very well. They got very close to beating Oregon and ended up being the Rose Bowl. So it's tough seeing them not winning this game.
All right, well, we also disagreed a lot about the St. Petersburg Bowl, Rutgers and UCF, Tim and Paul. You guys picked Central Florida. We picked Rutgers from the admittedly weak Big East. But why are you guys so high on UCF?
Well, the big thing here is we've got a hot scoop on this game as well. We saw George O'Leary's resume that he's going to start sending out this spring, and it already has the win against Rutgers chalked up on his resume. And we know that his resume is always 100% accurate, and so we think George O'Leary knows something that maybe we don't.
Beyond that, UCF is number 5 in the country in sacks. They get a lot of pressure on the quarterback, and that quarterback they're playing against Rutgers, he's a freshman, and that could lead to some turnovers and some big plays for UCF.
Yeah, Rutgers led the nation in turnovers gained versus turnovers lost this year. Let's call it turnover margin. But with the freshman quarterback against that tenacious defense, they're not going to be able to pull it off against Central Florida.
And of course, now we will all be intimidated by Mormons dressed in BYU uniforms. And of course, there was lots of disagreement amongst us all about this New Orleans Bowl, Southern Miss and Middle Tennessee. I went with Middle Tennessee State, the Blue Raiders of the Sun Belt Conference, a very prestigious conference. And of course, Southern Miss from Conference USA, alma mater of Brett Favre, who is he retired or is he?
I think he's still
is he
around.
back now or
I think he's still around.
Is he still deciding? Anyway, David, you chose Middle Tennessee as well, but Scott, you went with Southern Miss. Por qué?
Southern Miss, they have a pretty good offense. They have scored over 30 points a game 6 times this year. Middle Tennessee State got a pretty good record. They're 8-4, but they have not beat a single bowl team this year. They lost by 24 points to Troy. So they have a good record. They have a 6-game win streak, but they're not quite all they're cracked up to be. I think Southern Miss has the edge.
And of course, noteworthy as well that they hung with Kansas and Houston. Both were close games. But you guys picked Southern Miss as well. Do you agree with Scott's reasoning?
Southern Miss does have a very solid offense. And you mentioned Brett Favre as one of Southern Miss's famous alumni. But I like to think the most famous, Matt Hinn, a.k.a. Dr. Saturday, football blogger extraordinaire. And we couldn't pick against Matt Hinn's alma mater.
And another thing, right now it's known as the alma mater of Brett Favre and, of course, Matt Hinn. In the future, it's going to be known as the alma mater of DeAndre Brown. He's an electric wide receiver for the Golden Eagles, and I think he's going to be a big part of the reason that they are able to come away with the win against the Blue Raiders.
And, of course, we're running out of time in these bowls, but I know you guys are dying to talk about the Wyoming Cowboys and the juggernaut of a team they are. Take it away. Just tell us all about Wyoming and why they'll lose their bowl game to Fresno State.
So I brought up some statistics, and let me throw this out there. You can throw it right back. Wyoming rush defense, 91st in the country. Fresno State rush offense, 7th in the country. Seems to be a little mismatch. Not only was Wyoming's scoring offense 111th in the country, there's only 9 teams worse, and their scoring defense 75th in the country. They had the 20th best turnover margin, which means those stats were bolstered by a bunch of kind of random turnovers. This is a worse team than a lot of teams that are not in bowls.
Now, of course, Wyoming was a strong enough team for Texas to travel to Laramie in the beginning of the season there, but they're not going to end their season on a win.
All right, well, thanks a lot, guys. We appreciate your expertise and also your humor. We're going to take it, a little more prestige now. We're going to look at some different bowls now. The Hawaii, the Little Caesars, the Meineke Car Care, the Emerald, and the Music City Bowls. Take a look at who's playing. Of course, rooting very hard for Michigan State to go to that Little Caesars Bowl. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. I just thought that'd be the best slap to the face possible. But also some intriguing matchups. You have Pitt and UNC, Boston College and USC, and then perhaps one of the most lopsided games, Kentucky and Clemson. So we're going to welcome in Danny Rode, an associate producer of Wolverine Alley Oop here in just a second. But guys, we're unanimous that Ohio, USC, and Clemson are all going to win. Particularly with the Clemson game, Scott. That seems like, that's just not fair.
I would pick this to be the biggest mismatch of the entire bowl season. Not a very good Kentucky team going up against Clemson with C.J. Spiller, an electric back who just came off an ACC title performance where they almost were in a BCS bowl. It's very tough to see Kentucky staying anywhere close with Clemson.
And of course, USC, Boston College. Seriously?
Right. I mean, Taylor Mays was upset after, 2 or 3 USC losses? I mean, just imagine 4. That guy's going to be flying around out there, and Boston College doesn't stand a chance. I mean, USC's offense, their defense, it's just going to be too much.
All right, well, we welcome in Danny Rode now, and let's talk about some of these games that we do disagree with, Danny. And let's start with the Hawaii Bowl. You have Nevada along with myself and David, but Scott went with June Jones and SMU in his return to Hawaii. Why do you think Nevada and their pistol offense are going to pull out the victory?
Well, Nevada's offense is the top rushing attack in the country. They also score the most points per game in the country, I believe at 40.6 points per game. So I think, although June Jones, great story, going back to Hawaii, and SMU being in their first bowl since the death penalty in 1987, after all that controversy and basically getting rid of the Southwest Conference. But I think that Nevada will take it down, and they kept relatively close with Boise State.
Yeah, well, Nevada can score, as Danny said, 70 points in one game. They had SMU's given up more than 30 points 7 times. Scott, defend yourself.
This is a tough pick. I'm just really intrigued by the story of June Jones resurrecting this program, taking them in 2 years from a doormat to a 7-5 team who beat the Conference USA champions, East Carolina. I really think this is a team that has a lot of potential. Another thing of note, Nevada, very turnover prone with this pistol offense. They run a lot of option. It's very easy to, get these pitches messed up. I see that being a big factor. I see June Jones and SMU going to Hawaii, where June Jones used to coach, as a big factor. And SMU, like Danny was saying, getting a chance to play in a bowl for the first time in quite a while. I think that momentum's going to carry him through to victory.
And of course, we had the privilege, Scott and myself did, of going to the Pitt-Cincinnati game, which was a great one. And let's talk about this Pitt-North Carolina matchup. Now, we all agree that Pitt is going to beat North Carolina. Danny does not. We'll get to Danny in a second. But David, Pitt has a pretty strong resume. North Carolina, while it's a home game, more or less, doesn't have as strong a resume.
Right, and you got to think Pitt's the better team. They're the second best team in the conference. That's vastly underrated this year. I mean, I have to say they're better than the ACC, and they might be better than the Big Ten. I don't want to say that, but they might be. And, Pittsburgh's got star running back. They just have it all.
All right, Danny, you went with Butch Davis here. Seems like Dion Lewis is going to be a big problem for that North Carolina defense, though it is a good defense.
There are a few reasons why I took North Carolina in this game. First of all, North Carolina plays up to their competition. They did beat Virginia Tech and Miami this season, and they play down when they're playing teams that are not quality. They did lose to NC State and Virginia. Second of all, the game is in Charlotte. It's a semi-home game for North Carolina. They did play another Big East team there last year in a very close game against West Virginia. I believe the score was 31-30 in that game. But I also think that Pittsburgh, they're going to struggle. They've lost their last 2 games in really close games, including a heartbreaking fashion at home to Cincy, which you guys were there for, and they lost 45-44 in that game off a missed extra point. So where's their confidence level? So that's why I'm taking North Carolina in this game. I think they're going to pull off the upset.
All right, and final question for you, Danny, is we discussed the USC and Clemson games briefly, but when you were making those picks, did you even give a chance to Boston College or Kentucky in those games?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. USC, their first non-BCS bowl since 2001. It's also in California. I don't see Boston College having a chance. And CJ Spiller is going to run wild over Kentucky. Although Kentucky has won their last 4 bowl games. So you do have to look out for that. But no chance.
Yeah, who knew Kentucky won their last 4 bowl games? And boy, the worst season of Pete Carroll's career, perhaps, at USC, ending in an Emerald Bowl bid. I'd take that. Just saying. All right, well, we have to go to commercial break. We have way too many more bowls coming up for you. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to Varsity Blue. Alex Prasad, David Niles, Scott Wagner. How many times will I say that today? If you watch the whole hour, you will find out. We're moving on to our third group of bowl games now. It includes the PapaJohns.com Bowl, the International Bowl, the Alamo Bowl, the Liberty Bowl, and the GMAC Bowl. And if you're looking for these games in early December, or at least at the beginning of the bowl schedule, you would be mistaken, because these bowls are all jerks and decided to play in January, trying to get perhaps more prestige for themselves that they do not deserve. Take a look at the matchups here and what we picked. You got South Carolina, UConn, USF, Northern Illinois, Michigan State, Texas Tech, Arkansas, East Carolina, and CMU and Troy. A couple unanimous games there, but we also have some disagreements as well, especially in that East Carolina Liberty Bowl. We're going to welcome in now Nick Tejeda, a Sports Night